Before I begin this story, let me ask you, my dear viewers, what price would you be willing to pay for your dreams? If the glittering lights of success stood on one side, and the shadowy road of struggle stood on the other, which path would you choose? Would you cling to the hope of fame, no matter the cost, or would you step back and hold on to your peace of mind? I ask because today's story is not just a tale, it is a mirror. It is about choices, about ambition, about the invisible battles young men and women fight every single day in Nigeria, searching for a better life. And maybe, as you listen, you will find yourself somewhere in this journey. This is the story of Njideka. I was 25 years old when I left Owerri, Imo State, the town where I was born, with nothing but a small suitcase, trembling hands, and a heart full of dreams. My parents had always done their best. My father worked as a petty trader, struggling to keep food on the table, while my mother fried akara by the roadside to support our home. I was the first daughter, with two younger siblings who often looked up to me with eyes that asked questions I had no answers to. Life in Owerri was simple, but it was also stifling. Every corner of the town reminded me of what we did not have: no steady power supply, no real opportunities, no escape from the poverty that clung to us like a second skin. But deep inside me, there was fire. A restless flame that whispered of a brighter future, one where my face would shine on Instagram timelines, my name would be whispered across social media, and brands would pay me to live the kind of life others only dreamed of. When I told my parents I wanted to move to Lagos to pursue my dream of becoming an influencer, they were silent. My mother's eyes grew wet, and my father sighed so deeply I felt it in my bones. Njideka, he said, Lagos is not what you think. Lagos can swallow a person whole. But ambition is deaf. Once it takes root in your heart, it silences every warning. So, I kissed my siblings goodbye, hugged my crying mother, and turned away from my father's worried gaze. The journey to Lagos was both thrilling and terrifying. I watched the trees blur past the bus window, my mind painting pictures of skyscrapers, photo shoots, fancy clothes, and followers clicking like on every post I made. My heart thudded with both hope and fear, for I knew Lagos was a city that promised everything, but often gave nothing. When I finally arrived, I was greeted by Lucy, my friend from secondary school. She looked radiant, confident, and full of life. She hugged me tightly at the bus park, her perfume intoxicating, her smile wide. "Welcome to Lagos, NGI," she said. "Your new life begins here." And in that moment, I truly believed her. But I did not know then that Lagos was a city with two faces, one clothed in light, and the other hidden in dangerous shadows. The first thing I noticed about Lagos was the noise. It wasn't just the sound of car horns blaring from downfall stuck in traffic, or the street hawkers calling out the prices of gala and bottled water. It was more than that. It was as though the entire city was breathing heavily, restless, alive, and hungry. Lucy's apartment was in Surale, a modest two-bedroom flat she shared with another girl named Busy. The house was far from luxurious, but after living in my parents' cramped bungalow back in Owerri, it felt like stepping into a new world. The city air smelled different, like dust, fried food, and opportunity. That night, as we sat on the floor eating noodles and laughing about old memories, Lucy leaned close to me and whispered, "NGI, Lagos will test you. But if you play the game right, this city will change your life." I didn't fully understand what she meant, but her confidence was contagious. I told her about my dream of becoming a social media influencer, how I wanted to inspire young women, work with big brands, and show the world that someone from a small town could shine as brightly as any star. She smiled, her eyes glinting like fireflies in the dark. Then you are in the right place. Lagos rewards ambition. Just remember, you must be willing to do what it takes. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Lucy introduced me to her circle of friends, young women and men who seemed to live life on the fast lane. They wore designer clothes, carried expensive phones, and always seemed to have money to spend. They moved from lounges to nightclubs, from private parties in Lekki to photo shoots on Victoria Island. Everywhere they went, heads turned. I was dazzled. I began to imagine myself in their shoes, my Instagram filled with glamorous photos, my follower count climbing every day. I wanted it so badly. So, when Lucy handed me a dress one Friday evening and said, "Come with us tonight, NJI. You need to see Lagos nightlife," I didn't hesitate. That night changed everything. The club was unlike anything I had ever seen. Loud music pounded through the speakers, neon lights flashed across the room, and people danced like their lives depended on it. I felt small at first, almost invisible, but Lucy held my hand and pulled me to the center of the room. Soon, I was laughing, swaying, and forgetting the weight of responsibility that had followed me from Owerri. But beneath the glamour, I began to notice something. The men who flocked around us weren't just there for conversation. Their eyes lingered too long, their offers of free drinks carried invisible strings. I watched as some of Lucy's friends disappeared into the VIP section with strangers, their smiles wide, their laughter loud. "Is this the game?" I whispered to Lucy. She smiled at me, sipping her drink slowly. "This is Lagos, NJI. Nothing is free here." Her words echoed in my mind long after we left the club. I wanted success. I wanted fame. But was this really the path to it? The city was dazzling, yes, but it also had teeth. And I was beginning to feel its bite. At first, life with Lucy felt like living inside a dream. Every week brought new experiences, rooftop parties in Victoria Island, shopping trips to boutiques I could never have imagined back in Owerri, and selfies with Lagos' glittering skyline as my backdrop. My Instagram page began to grow steadily. My followers multiplied, and for the first time, I felt like I was standing on the edge of the life I had always wanted. But slowly, the cracks began to show. Behind every designer bag Lucy carried, there was a story she never told. Behind every expensive meal she posted online, there was always a man footing the bill. And behind every night we returned home with tired smiles, there was an exhaustion that settled into my bones like lead. I began to notice things. The way Busy, her roommate, would return late at night, clutching wads of cash she stuffed into her handbag as though hiding it from her own conscience. The hushed conversations Lucy had on the phone, promising men her time in exchange for a gift. One evening, after yet another exhausting night out, I confronted Lucy. "Tell me the truth," I said, my voice trembling. "Is this the life you have been living? Is this the price of success?" She looked at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she sighed. "Njideka, you want to shine, but shine doesn't come free. Lagos is not for the weak. If you want to be noticed, if you want to live the life you dream of, you must be willing to pay the price." Her words sent a chill down my spine. I thought of my parents in Owerri, my siblings who looked up to me, and the promises I had made to myself. Was this what I had left home for? To exchange my dignity for likes and comments on Instagram. But ambition is a tricky thing. Even as I recoiled from Lucy's words, another part of me whispered, maybe this is just the way. Maybe this is what it takes. The weeks rolled into months, and I found myself caught in a dangerous cycle. Some nights, I followed Lucy and her friends, smiling at men I did not know, pretending to enjoy conversations that drained me, just so I could capture the perfect photo or video for my page. Other nights, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with fear and guilt. And then, the exhaustion set in. My body grew weak from sleepless nights, my mind clouded with anxiety. I stopped recognizing the girl who had stepped off the bus in Lagos with so much hope in her heart. My dreams were turning into nightmares. I wanted out. I wanted another way. But in Lagos, finding a legitimate path was like searching for gold in a river of mud. Still, I knew I had to try. One morning, I stood before the mirror, my face pale, my eyes hollow. I whispered to myself, if I continue like this, Lagos will destroy me. I need to find another way. But where would I begin? There comes a time in every story where the glamour fades, and only truth remains. For me, that moment arrived on a humid night in Lagos, after a party in Lekki that left me shaken to my core. Lucy had dragged me along despite my protest. "You can't afford to miss this one," she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "There will be big names there, businessmen, celebrities, people who can change your life." But that night, instead of opportunity, I found fear. One of the men at the party, a wealthy, arrogant figure with a reputation whispered about in hushed tones, cornered me in the VIP section. His gaze was sharp, his smile predatory. He leaned close, his words laced with entitlement. "Pretty face like yours should not waste time. Come with me tonight, and I will make you famous." My skin crawled. My heart raced. In that moment, I realized how dangerous the glittering world I had stepped into could truly be. I pulled away, muttered an excuse, and ran out into the night air, gasping for breath as though I had been drowning. When Lucy finally found me outside, she was furious. "Do you know who that man was? Do you know what he could have done for you?" But I had no answer for her. My silence was louder than any words I could have spoken. That night, I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy with shame and fear. Lagos had shown me its darkest face, and I knew then that I could no longer keep walking down the same road. The next morning, I made a decision. I walked into the small sitting room of the apartment, where Lucy and Busy were still asleep, their makeup smudged from the night before. I sat at the edge of the couch, my hands trembling, my voice steady only because my spirit demanded it. "I cannot live like this anymore," I whispered to myself. "I need to find my own way." From that day, I began searching for legitimate work. It was not easy. Lagos is a city where jobs are scarce, and competition is fierce. I queued for hours under the sun at recruitment centers, submitted countless CVs, and attended interviews that ended with rejection after rejection. Some employers laughed at my dreams, telling me I was better off using my looks than wasting time. Others promised me a job only if I was willing to offer something in return. But I refused. Then, one scorching afternoon in Ojulegba, my feet aching from walking all day, I stopped at a small roadside restaurant to buy a plate of jollof rice. The owner, a stout woman with a stern face softened by kindness in her eyes, watched me carefully as I counted coins with trembling fingers. "Are you looking for work?" she asked suddenly. My head snapped up, surprised. "Yes, ma, anything." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Come back tomorrow morning. You can start as a waitress here. It won't be easy, and the pay is small, but it is honest." Tears burned my eyes. I didn't care that it wasn't glamorous, or that it had nothing to do with Instagram. It was real. It was mine. That night, I whispered to myself, "This is my new beginning." At first, the restaurant job felt strange. I went from the glimmering lights of Lagos nightlife to wiping wooden tables, carrying trays of steaming rice and stew, and scrubbing greasy plates until my hands ached. The sweat clung to my skin, and the scent of fried plantain never seemed to leave my clothes. But for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Each night after my shift, I would collapse onto the thin mattress in Lucy's apartment, tired but content that I had earned my day's bread with my own hands. Lucy, however, didn't see it that way. One evening, as I returned home late from work, still in my all-stained uniform, Lucy's sharp voice cut through the room. "Njideka, what is this nonsense? You left Owerri with dreams of becoming an influencer, and now you are serving food in a roadside buka. Do you not see how you are embarrassing yourself?" Her words pierced me. I tried to explain that this was temporary, that I needed stability, that I couldn't keep depending on parties and strange men for survival. But she scoffed, tossing her hair back. "You are wasting your beauty. Do you think followers care about a waitress? Do you think brands will look at you when you smell of smoke and palm oil? You are throwing your future away." Busy laughed from her corner, adding fuel to the fire. "Let her be, Lizzie. If she wants to live like a village girl, that is her business. Lagos is not for everyone." That night, the air in the apartment grew heavy with unspoken tension. Days later, the inevitable happened. After another heated argument, Lucy snapped. "Pack your things, Njideka. I cannot have you dragging me down. If you want to live like a pauper, do it elsewhere." The words stung like fire. I stared at her, my chest tight with anger and sorrow. But deep down, I knew this was coming. Without another word, I packed my small suitcase and walked out. That night, I became homeless in Lagos. The streets are not kind, especially to a young woman with nowhere to go. I sat on a wooden bench near Ojulegba Bridge, clutching my bag, my eyes wide with fear as the city moved around me, hawkers shouting, downfalls screeching, and shadows shifting in corners I dared not look at. For the first time, I felt truly small, truly lost. The next morning, with swollen eyes, I dragged myself to the restaurant. My employer, Mama Ifioma, took one look at me and asked, "What happened?" When I told her everything, her face softened. She shook her head slowly. "This city can break you if you let it. But you are a strong girl, Njideka. If you have no place to stay, you can sleep in the small room behind the kitchen. It is not much, but at least you will have a roof over your head." My throat tightened with emotion. I bowed my head, whispering, "Thank you, Ma. Thank you." That tiny room, with its narrow bed and flickering bulb, became my sanctuary. It wasn't glamour, it wasn't fame, but it was safety. And for me, that was everything. But Lagos wasn't done testing me yet. Life at the restaurant was far from easy, but it gave me something that Lagos had almost stolen from me: dignity. Each morning, I tied my apron and got to work, carrying trays of hot meals to sweaty taxi drivers, students with tired eyes, and families who squeezed themselves around plastic tables to share a single plate of rice. The work was hard, but I found unexpected joy in the rhythm of it. Customers began to know my name. Some would smile when they saw me. "Njideka, your service is always kind," they would say. And those small words carried more weight than all the shallow compliments I had once chased at parties. Mama Ifeoma became more than an employer to me, she became a mentor. In the evenings, after the last customers had left, she would sit with me in the kitchen, telling stories of how she had once come to Lagos with nothing, sleeping under bridges before building her restaurant with sheer determination. "Do not despise small beginnings," she often said. "It is in the little things that greatness hides." Her words sank deep into my heart. Slowly, I began to see my dream in a new light. I still wanted to inspire others, still wanted my story to reach beyond the walls of that roadside buka, but now, I realized that inspiration didn't have to come from glamour. It could come from honesty, from resilience, from showing that even in a city as unforgiving as Lagos, one could rise without selling their soul. One day, with the little savings I had managed to keep aside, I bought a small second-hand smartphone. During breaks, I started taking short videos, not of luxury clothes or nightclubs, but of real life. Of Mama Ifeoma stirring a pot of jollof over open fire. Of a downfall conductor singing loudly to lift passengers' spirits. Of the little boy who came every day to beg for leftover food, and always left with a smile after Mama Ifeoma packed him a plate. I began sharing these stories online, calling them Lagos Through Honest Eyes. To my surprise, people loved it. Comments poured in, "This is the real Lagos we know. Thank you for showing us beauty in the struggle. Your content feels alive." My followers grew again, but this time, it was different. They weren't following me for the glitter, they were following me for the truth. Months later, when a small local NGO reached out and offered to collaborate with me to promote their feeding program for underprivileged children, I knew I had found my true path. It wasn't the influencer dream I had once imagined, but it was something deeper, something lasting. And now, as I sit here reflecting, I ask you, my viewers, what truly defines success? Is it the number of likes on a photo, or is it the lives we touch with the little we have? My name is Njideka. I came to Lagos chasing a dream, and though the city nearly broke me, it also remade me. I found strength where I thought I had none, and a purpose I never expected. Now I turn the question back to you: if you were in my shoes, what path would you have chosen? Would you chase the glittering promises, or would you choose the harder, humbler road that leads to peace? Tell me, what does success mean to you?